All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program, Johnny Cuba, European roots with that Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. Go to johnnycuba.us, find the nearest location to you. How else are you going to celebrate week 1 of the NFL season? Make sure you always drink responsibly, and don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Joining us now, look at that mustache, Carlin versus Joe. Joe Fortenbaugh here with us. Joe, good to see you. How are you? ESPN Radio Reports noon to 3 Eastern every single day. Hey, Joe.
Jonathan Zaslow, so great to be here. Such a pleasure. No, I'm trying to do my best, Zaz. You know I love working with you. The energy is unmatched. Thank you for the opportunity to come on with you. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. We're full swing. The other day, I gave my wife a kiss on the lips, gave my kids a hug. I said, see you in February. That's right. I expect good grades.
I'll tell you, you guys, especially on your show, have been so good to me because as a result, I'm in all these promos. I'm in all the imaging all across the station. You guys on Carlin versus Joe have been especially good to me. I appreciate that.
We love you. We love you. You're the top fill-in. Don't tell the other fill-ins. But when we get the opportunity to bring you in, I mean, you're like everyone's favorite cousin around here, Zaz. And you're never up here. We got to fly you into LaGuardia. We got to drive you up. We got to bring you in. You got to get your ass in here so we can see you in person with everybody. You and I have never actually met in person, have we?
I know. And LaGuardia is my airport. Everybody knows LaGuardia is my airport. We have not met. At some point, we will, it'll be some type of ESPN get-together. They will fly me up there to either New York City or in Bristol, and I'll get to meet everybody. That would be nice.
It's such a wild industry we work in. You and I have worked together on radio shows for multiple years, and yet have never met in person.
Right.
Like, how is that even possible?
It is funny. They got me traveling now, so I'm doing the college tailgate tour, and we have
I love this.
Friday nights, Amber and Ian on the road, which is great. We're in the big house, all right, this weekend. Tomorrow, Saturday, college tailgate. We're in the Airstream trailer. We're right there in the thick of things.
Have you ever been to the big house?
No. Matter of fact, so we started the tour last week in Gainesville, which, of course, I went to school there, so I got to drive. That was easy. Now, we're in Ann Arbor. We're in the big house starting tonight, Friday night. And every week, we're at the biggest games each week. I've never been to any of these places that we're going to the rest of the season.
Guy I played football with in high school ended up playing at the University of Michigan. So I went up there for a couple games. First time they ever went to overtime in the big house. I think it was a Penn State game. I saw them play Notre Dame up there. I'll say this about the big house. It's wild because when you walk up to it, it's like nothing. You're like, why is this the big house? Because they built the thing like 500 feet down into the earth. So you walk up and you're like, oh, this is it. Okay. And then when you walk in, you're at like row 85 and the field is all the way down. So don't judge a book by its cover. When you first see it, you'll think, oh, this is kind of subtle. I'm surprised by this. And then you walk in and it's like, boom, it expands in front of you. It's awesome.
That's interesting. All right. That's interesting.
Great college town.
Yeah, so let's start there. All right. So Joe's here with us to give us some picks, do a little college football, do a little NFL. I gotta pay this mortgage somehow. All right.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Texas and Michigan, that's at noon tomorrow. Number 3, Texas, number 10, Michigan. What do we like there?
Money's been coming in on Texas early and often, no surprise. They opened as a 5-point favorite. They got bet up to the key number of 7. They got bet through it to 7.5. Dangerous now to play Texas. People are going to look at what they did to Colorado State last week. We're going to love them. We're going to look at Michigan, struggled big against Fresno, won by 20, but it was 2 big turnovers that set that score up. A turnover early by Fresno in their own territory. Michigan cashed it in, then did basically nothing offensively the rest of the way, then a pick 6 late in the game. So there's a lot of glory numbers there. Michigan lost 10 starters on offense. They're not the same team. Harbaugh's gone, but they can still play defense, and they love to run the ball. And when you're trying to cover a big number on the road in crowd noise, a team that runs the ball and plays good defense, it can be tough to do. So as this number continues to creep up, I look at Michigan, but I think the bet here is under 42.5. I think what's going to happen is Texas is going to come in. They're not going to light the skies up. Quinn Ewers is good. I don't think Quinn Ewers is great. I think Texas wins the game, but I think offensively, Michigan's defense is able to hold them in check. And Michigan's offense, very one-dimensional. I don't expect a lot from them. Low-scoring game, under 42.5.
Now, okay, now a lot of attention being paid, obviously, in week number 1. You got Dion, you got Colorado. This weekend, tomorrow night in Nebraska, Colorado at Nebraska. Nebraska's giving 7. I know you like this game, right?
Yeah, this is another one where it opens Nebraska 5. Nothing but Nebraska money, puts it up to 7. Key number. So here we go. Couple things that worry me about Colorado. Number 1, offensive line. Big time problem. Last year in this game, they gave up 7 sacks with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. That was at home. This is on the road with the crowd noise in Lincoln. It's going to be very difficult to communicate. I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado's offense looks messy out there at times. Number 2, Colorado's defense isn't very good, and bad defenses don't travel well. Last week against North Dakota State, an FCS school, a good school, but an FCS school, they gave up almost 500 yards and 26 points. I think Nebraska can hang a number here. Total's been bet up from 54.5 up to 58.5. I don't know if I jump on the over, but I think I would lay the touchdown with Nebraska. Matt Rule, from year 1 to year 2, we always see a big jump. We saw it at Temple. We saw it at Baylor. And I think we're going to see it here. Year 2 is where he really gets cooking. So I like him to cover against Colorado.
Do you have a biggest play for Saturday?
Yeah. I don't even know if anyone's going to be aware of this game, but Old Dominion is playing East Carolina. The total in this game is 55 points. Bet the over. It came out at 51. It's been bet up all week for good reason. I don't think anyone realizes, based on what they saw from these teams last year and what we saw in week 1, there have been some changes. These were 2 of the fastest paced teams in all of college football last year. What does that mean? Fast pace, get up to the line of scrimmage, snap the ball quickly. If you're doing that, you're getting more plays per game. If you're running more plays per game, you have more opportunities to score. Pace is an important metric to track in both football and basketball when you're looking at totals. And I think this has the potential to be more of a track meet. So over 55, East Carolina, Old Dominion, the Jonathan ZASLOW Show 2.0 special.
Now, you don't have to necessarily, Joe, give me a play here. The Hurricanes, though. Hurricanes are hosting Florida A&M. They're obviously a heavy favorite. But Canes, Gators from this last weekend, for you, let me get some thoughts there. Was that more about the Gators, Billy Napier, they stink? Or do you think maybe the Canes are for real?
Great question. Great question. Because we've seen this before where a team has a really good performance like Miami did, and then it turns out the team they beat really ends up stinking, and then you watch this team stumble and you think to yourself, yeah, that game doesn't actually mean as much as we thought. Don't know yet. I like Billy Napier. I'm in the minority there. I think when Florida's going to be done with him at some point, I think someone's going to get a good buy low on him. He did great stuff at Louisiana. For whatever reason, it's not working out at Florida. They're too undisciplined on defense with these penalties that are coming at the worst moments. But I was big on Miami before the season started. I like the transfer, the acquisition of Cam Ward and Damian Martinez. I love the fact that I know Cristobal can recruit and get talent. Can Cristobal manage late game scenarios? That's going to be the key. Miami this year has a great schedule. They're already through the Florida game, which was one of the toughest. They don't have Clemson. They don't have NC State. The one daunting game remaining was supposed to be Florida State, and they look like crap, and that game's in Miami. So I bet Miami to make the playoff before the season started around plus 230. I like them to win the ACC. I'm not moving off that. Everything's breaking my way right now.
Now, Joe, it's never too early to talk about who's leading the Heisman race.
Yeah.
So after week 1, who's leading the Heisman right now?
Dillon Gabriel is still your favorite, even though Oregon didn't look as good as some people expected. They put up some big yardage. They just weren't able to cash it in. My approach to the Heisman is generally this. If I know I can get ahead of a number, I might play it. Here's an example. Miller Moss in that game against LSU. I thought to myself, all right, Miller Moss is 40-1. His head coach pumps out Heisman Trophy winners like crazy. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, almost got there with Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams. Who's to say he can't turn this guy into something? And then I thought, if they beat LSU in a standalone game and Miller Moss looks good, 40-1 is not going to be available. So I'll dabble. I'll play a little bit of Miller Moss. Well, it ends up working out. He's now down to 25-1. So we got ahead of the move. Generally, that's how I like to play it throughout the season. Look at upcoming chunks of scheduling. Look at big-time matchups. Ask myself, if this happens, followed by this, what could end up falling into my lap? And that was one play right there. So like I said, Gabriel's your favorite. I would not play him. Drew Aller at Penn State, I'd keep an eye on him. They brought in Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator who's at Kansas last year. Explosive offense. And that's what Penn State lacked. Aller was checked down Charlie last season. If he starts airing it out like he did against West Virginia, kid's going to put up numbers, could get invited to New York. So that's one of the numbers I'd look at right now. In terms of leading it, though, your guess is as good as mine. It's early in the season. There's so much that's left to play out. Normally, these things get sorted late October, early November.
All right. Let's take a look ahead to the NFL this weekend. Let's actually start. Do you like something tonight? All right. Packers, Eagles, they're in Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
Philadelphia -2.5. Do you like something there?
Small bet on Philly. I'm an Eagles fan, full disclosure, but the reason I make the bet is, and I wouldn't make it at 3. Can't make it at 3. Key number. If it's less than 3, I'd play the Eagles. I think what we have here is a convergence of undervalued, overvalued. Everybody loves the Packers this year. Everybody loves the Packers and the Texans. Great. Green Bay's still a very young team. And now they got the weight of the world on their shoulders. You're not sneaking up on anybody. People are picking you to win the NFC this year. Some people are picking you to win the Super Bowl. They're going to feel that weight. And they're going to go to Brazil to take on an Eagles team that everyone watched collapse at the end of last year. And then they read the story about the dysfunction between the coach and the quarterback, and people are checking out on these guys. Maybe it's dysfunctional. But what if it's not? Because with all those weapons on offense, with what they've got on defense, with the pedigree they showed 2 years ago, if they're not dysfunctional, they can be a hell of a football team. I think there's a little bit of value in Philly. I would play them at less than a field goal, but it's a small wagers as.
What about the Dolphins? Dolphins home opener, Dolphins and Jaguars. You like something there?
I haven't done anything with it yet. I find this very interesting. Jacksonville's taken a little bit of money at +3.5. I think the thought process here isn't so much anti-Miami, even though there are some injuries on defense. It's more the Jags being undervalued a bit. 2 years ago, Peterson gets them to the playoffs. Lawrence has the breakout. Last year, they start 8-3, and then they go into the tank. They addressed the O-line. They addressed wide receiver. They addressed corner. Jacksonville could be one of those sneaky teams, but no one cares because they're not that popular and because last year they were a trendy team and they let everybody down. So nobody wants to go back to them. Nobody wants to talk about them. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a very good football game and Jacksonville's hanging there all the way. But again, I'm not necessarily going to take it because I know what Miami's capable of. That offense moves so fast, it can hit you from so many different ways. No spread is safe when you're playing the dog against Miami. So that could be a sit back and watch for me.
Who else do you like on Sunday?
I love Seattle. They're laying 6 against Denver. Okay. I know everyone's very high on Bo Nix, next Drew Brees, all that crap. Okay, fine. But in game 1 on the road in Seattle with the 12th man, you're telling me he's going to be Drew Brees there with that arsenal and that O-line? I don't think so, my friend. I also think this. Seattle might be the most underrated team in the NFL this season. I've been doing a lot of work on him, and I'm surprised I didn't catch this earlier. Mike McDonald comes over from Baltimore. 1 year, defensive coordinator at Baltimore. He took over a unit that ranked bottom 5 in the NFL in Football Outsiders DVOA, right? In 1 year, he turned them into a top 8 defense. They were fantastic. He's got some weapons to play with on that defensive side. He's going to shape them up. Ryan Grubb, he hires as his offensive coordinator, comes over from the University of Washington. Dude's got wide receivers to play with all over the place. Jackson Smith-Njigba, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. This offense could be very explosive. I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle ran him out of the building. That's my favorite game in week 1, Seahawks -6.
Now, Joe, these sound like good plays, but what if I got to chase? All right, if we get to Monday and we got Niners and Jets, do you like anything there?
Oh, well, first of all, we can't skip the Sunday night game if we're going to chase.
Okay, all right.
Money coming in on the under there. I would play the over. I know the Rams are going to try to run the ball, but I think eventually they're going to get forced into a firefight. So I'd look to a little bit of an over there. But to your question, back to Monday night, I like the Jets. I'll take the points. I am not high on San Francisco this year. They were one of the healthiest teams in the NFL last year. They had a million things go their way. They were very, very good. I think there's going to be some natural law of averages regression that takes place. I think you got some guys in late. I think this Jets team can play defense and keep the game tight. I'm getting 4.5 points more than a field goal. I should have competent quarterback play. Rule of thumbs as you don't bet the underdog because you think they can keep it close. You bet the underdog because you can believe it can win. I believe the Jets can win. I believe. So I would take the Jets plus the points.
Joe, excellent job. It's back. We have so much football this weekend. Tell everybody Daily Wager, ESPN Bet, Carlin versus Joe. Tell everybody all the places they can hear and see
all
it.
the good stuff. Carlin versus Joe. We should be calling it Carlin versus Joe versus ZASLOW because he's on the show so much. 12 to 3 Eastern, ESPN Radio, Monday through Friday. ESPN Bet Live. We're all over the place. We're on ESPN2, Thursday and Friday nights, you can catch us 6 to 7 p.m. Saturday morning, we get you set for college football, 11 a.m. Eastern to noon. Okay. Sunday morning, we get you set, 9 a.m. to 10, and then we're back Monday, 4 p.m. to 5. I don't know how anyone is ever supposed to find us when we're all over the place like this, but thank you for letting me lay it out for your listeners, and I appreciate the support.
Everyone knows now. It's all settled. Now you have all the viewers. Now everyone is locked in. Great job, Joe. Good seeing you. Thank you, pal.
Zaz, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.